Hello, my friends. John LaRuffa here with another straight up solo. And in this episode, we are going to take a look at SETI. I'm going to show it to you from a solo standpoint. And then, as usual, I'll let you know what I think. All right, let's get started. Okay, folks, and as usual, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And if you have, I really do appreciate the support. Thank you very much. So, as you can see, this game has a pretty big footprint, all right? And this is what it's going to look like as you start your fourth out of 5 rounds with the solo players, components, and everything else over here, and with my components over here. Now, the goal of the game is to score points by basically trying to find signs of life and discover 2 out of 5 potential alien races. Okay, and the way you're going to do that in this game is basically by doing 3 types of things. First, you're going to be launching probes. And as you launch the probe, you gain publicity throughout by moving it around in the solar system and visiting different places. That publicity helps you to go up on this track over here, which you then can spend to upgrade and do research 3 of your capabilities, which is basically launching and or turning things into orbit or landers, scanning for sectors for alien life, and then analyzing the data that you have, okay? And you are going to launch these probes right here, and you're going to bring them into locations of planets and moons and other things, and you're going to either turn them into orbiters, where you will score points and gain different bonuses around here or around each of the planets. First one scores points. Most of the rest of it is just to gain these other abilities. Not really abilities, but resources, etc. And then you also can land as a lander on the moons or the planet themselves, and that scores you points and something else, okay? With the signs of life, to get the signs of life, you're going to try to scan different places and gather data. And in scanning those places, once that scan has been resolved, the person who contributed the most of it will get this red type of, or this pink type of sign of life. When you land on a planet, you'll get this yellow type of sign of life. And when you analyze the data that you get from doing the scans, you'll get the blue type. Once all 3 of these have been filled in, you flip over the hidden alien race, and then you put that race into the game. And there are 5 different ones. You don't know what you've got coming up. And so when you do put that into the game, it opens up several different tracks to both score and get cards from or other things from. And each of the alien races has some mechanic that it adds to the game specific to that race. Okay. And so that's basically what you're doing. There's also some condition fulfillment, I would say, like you basically, when you cross these golden milestones here, you'll be able to mark certain golden tasks, and you'll get points at the end of the game for having, for instance, every 2 upgrades that you have would be 7 points if you marked it, or the next person to mark it with 5 or 3, etc. And there's other things there, okay? And so that's basically the mechanic, but the other thing you've got going on is you're going to have a hand of cards, and all the cards are going to let you do something special and better than a normal action, but they almost all cost money. The other ones, like for instance, this alien deck costs energy instead. And when you play the card, you can do it in a couple of ways. You can tuck it for income, which you get right away when you tuck it, and you do that by getting some of these bonuses over here. And that will give you income at the end, or I'm sorry, at the beginning of each new round. You can discard it for whatever the reward is up here, or you can pay the cost and then get the entirety of the card over here and put it in front of you. Some of them are one-time actions. Some of them are also conditional or multi-step missions that once you fulfill that on any part of your turn, or even later whenever you want to, once you have the condition fulfilled, you can flip the mission over and achieve whatever the bonus is. And then there's even the golden ones that, basically need to be done by the end of the game. And so you have a ton of different cards in this game that you will use for those various purposes. And when each of the aliens come out, they introduce their own set of cards that are independent from this deck, but also do other things. So there's a lot of things that are going on. The other thing that happens, this board is fairly movable, right? Things orbit, and so every time you do certain actions, you're going to change the three-ringed board in the center here to do something like to basically move it a specific turn, okay? And when you do that, it will change the alignment of where you are, which also changes what you're scanning, how close things are, the ease or difficulty of getting your orbiter to or your probe to go to different planets, etc. It's pretty ingenious mechanic, to be honest. Okay, so that's kind of a verbal of what's going on. Let me show you a couple turns so you can get the feel. And by the way, this is definitely a Euro game, except I would say, unlike most Euro games, the theme does not feel pasted on here. You're not doing the research, convert this into that, fulfill this contract, get that. It's different. It definitely feels more thematic, which I think is a lot of people like this game, to be honest, because I know it's gotten high reviews. Okay, so it is the AI's turn. The AI is very easy to run. You flip over a card, and then you, from the top down, try to accomplish the first action you can. If you can't accomplish the action, you skip to the next one. So this first one says, I want to go and execute to my computer, analyze my data. But he does not have the data to analyze all full up, so you can't do that. The second one would be to launch a probe. He already has a probe launched. So then the third is to spend 6 publicity to rotate this and upgrade one of his technologies. But he doesn't have 6 publicity. So at the end, you always will be able to do this bottom one. In this case, he can move 3 movement spaces, and he wants to go to Saturn if possible, then Mars, then Jupiter, then Venus. So he's going to try his best to get over to that spot and then immediately convert into, in this case, either an orbiter or a lander. But he wants to try to go into orbit first. Okay, so he is playing the brown. He also is not penalized by going through asteroids. He just moves through asteroids at a 1 movement space per asteroid. Okay, instead of you, it's normally 2. In the first place he wants to go is Saturn. So can he reach Saturn? Well, that would be 1, 2, 3. No, he cannot reach Saturn. So the next one is Mars. Can he reach Mars? That would be 1, 2, 3. No, he can't get there because you can't travel through the sun, obviously. Jupiter. 1, 2, 3. No. Venus. 1, 2. Yes. So he can make it to Venus. So he gets to Venus. Because he traveled through to Venus over here, he is going to move his publicity up 1. And then it says that he wants to go into orbit first. So he is going to place this person in orbit, gain 3 points immediately. 1, 2, 3. Now his probe is an orbiter. And he'll get 6 points for being in orbit, plus he does an income. And when he does an income, he doesn't have any cards to tuck. So he just moves around this track 4 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as he loops this track, his deck gets better and better cards, basically, put into it. So that is it. His turn is done. Now, what can I do on my turn? I've told you kind of the actions. I basically have 7 main actions I could take. I could play a card. I can launch a probe. I could take a probe that's already on the board and put it into orbit, or I can land it. I can scan, or I can analyze data, or I could do research actions. And actually, it's 8 actions in total because I could pass. And if I pass, then I'm out for the rest of the round. And, that's basically how you move things along. But I have a probe over here. And what I would like to do, if at all possible, is find a way to do a couple things. Number one, I have some missions and other things that are giving me a bonus if I can tuck income cards. Also, I have some that will give me a bonus if I can be the leader on 2 of these, tracks over here, where I would need to complete the scanning and then be the person in the majority. And so those are things that I'm trying to accomplish before the end of the game. The end of the game is not too far away. And the only challenge is that these cards up here don't align with what I'm trying to do. And these are these things right here direct where I could potentially scan. So I'm going to forego that for a minute. Maybe the best thing to do would be to try to land on Saturn. So in order to move, and there's a variety of free actions you can take. You can spend 1 energy per space to move a probe. And then I would have to spend 3 energy to land. So that's kind of tough. You could do 2-for-1 conversions and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that can be done that way. I could also potentially scan this area and then other areas, red and yellow. And there's not a lot there in the yellow. I don't love those choices, to be honest. Let's see some of the cards that I have. Well, I can't launch a probe, but this is kind of interesting. I could use this card in the future. Actually, I could use it right now. On a planet or moon, even without the required tech. So watch what I can pull off. So I'm going to move to Saturn. Okay, this will be 1, 2, 3. That costs 3 energy for me to pull that off. Okay. Now I also get 1 publicity for being in the Saturn area because I visited it. Then I'm going to spend as my main action. That movement right there was just that was a free action. As a main action, I'm going to spend 2 credits here to land on this planet or any of these moons. And what I'd really like to do is land. That's 13 points, but I need a lot more energy. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to land on Io. So I bring this person down here, or the probe down here. Now it's a lander. I get 10 points. That puts me to 88. And then I get 4 energy. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that fills up the energy I spent. And I have a thing that says 3 points for each of my orbiters or landers at Jupiter, including the moons. Well, oops, I just said Io, but that's not allowed because that's in Jupiter. Sorry about that. I really should have gone to Saturn. So forget about the energy and the 10 points for a moment. Let's go with 12 points. I got another idea. All right, back it up. So 78. Like I said, moons. Saturn's moon, Titan, 7 points. So that puts me to 85. And then 2 signs of life here. Any ones I want. Well, I can mark, let's see. I can mark this one that gets me 6 points, 1 energy in a card. And I can also mark this one that gets me 4 points, 1 energy in a card. So that's 2 cards off the top. I've put this out here, so it's an active mission that I've got going on. And then I got the 2 cards, I got 10 points. So it puts me to 95 here. And because I crossed this was an earlier condition of a different situation. It was one of these. It says, increase your income with this card. So now that I fulfilled this goes down here and becomes an income card for me. So there are a lot of, I won't say chain reactions, but there are a lot of things that can happen from one action where it opens up other things, you do other things, and it leads to this and that and the other stuff. Lots of that. So that was my main action. Let's flip over another card for him. He wants to do the computer, he can't. He'll launch. He'll get a publicity and he'll go up 1 on this track. He can do that. So he's going to launch. He's going to go with publicity. And there we go. And he moved up there. That's his turn. Now, what can I do? Well, I have the same kind of decisions to make. It would be nice if I could get some more presence over on Jupiter. Jupiter's over here. So maybe the best thing for me to do would be to launch a probe. And so what I'll do is I'll spend the 2 credits, but do I have a card that makes it easier? Yes, I do. So this one lets me do exactly the same thing for the same cost, except if I have a probe on a comet, which hopefully, well, I don't know if I'm going to get there or not, but it might happen. I could then get a bonus or a benefit for 3 points in a data. So I'll pay the 2 to do that. So we'll put this over here. And I could spend energy right now to kind of move it around, but I'm not going to. I'm going to wait in hopes that this turns, because the next time, actually, all 3 of them are going to turn, so it's all going to be the same. So it's not going to help me yet. But the turning of this would get me closer to Jupiter if I want to get there. But maybe I want to do something else. We'll see. So you can tell the back and forth, there's an awful lot of interesting and interlinked mechanics to understand here. And in a way, it's a very Euro game. There's no doubt about it. But the theme and the way that you can wait for the orbits to help you get places, and the way that when you get places, you can discover things, and that discovery leads to other things, and it could lead to different, et cetera, is really cool and a lot of fun. And the card play is interesting in the fact that all of these cards help you do something a little more powerful, but they also might give you some objectives, temporary or permanent. And all of that seems to lean you into driving you in lots of different ways in what could be a very sandboxy style game. The other thing is, I'm only playing right now against the AI with the easiest methodology. But if you play on this, there's 5 levels of the AI, and level 2 through 5, you have to complete or fulfill these objective tiles that the AI puts out. And if you don't, it starts raising its score by 5 points every time you don't finish it at the very end. And so the difficulty ramps up quite well to give you this introductory game, which I'm kind of just demonstrating right here. You could see I'm in a considerable lead from the introductory game. But as you add these other objectives, that is again going to turn the sandbox into a more focused, more specific thing that you have to try to do in order for the bot to not gain a ton of points, which I think is pretty clever and very, very cool, very fun. So that is a good overview, I think, of everything going on. I didn't show you some of the research stuff, but all the research things basically bend the rules or make things easier for you, lower the cost, allow you to get through things, put more stuff out, get more points, etc. The kinds of little incremental things that are out there. But the other thing is, every time you do the research, you will move the orbit. And so as you do research, you can kind of anticipate, I'm going to get closer to my target, I'm going to spend less effort to get there, which I think is pretty cool and thematic as well. All right, so let me tell you what I think about it. So SETI is a very, very interesting and intricate and fun Euro-style game about looking for extraterrestrial life with real-life kinds of tools and things that actually is thematic. For a first, I think it's a very thematic, good feeling linked game. The usual Euro stuff that some people complain about, which I have no problems with, the pasted on mechanics, this and that and everything, they don't seem to exist here. Here you are basically doing action selection. You are spending resources to do things you want, or playing cards, which is doing a better thing. I mean, you could look at, so each of the cards is thematic in what it offers. It's like a specific technology. So like gravitational slingshot, or the Galileo mission, or the Atlas. I don't know what the Atlas is. Okay, it's a detector. All of these things are real life or things that are conceptually working on right now that have a good theme and kind of lead into what you're trying to do. So the gravitational slingshot helps you to get further into the solar system where you're trying to go. It gives you movement points. The alien telescope array is, it helps you scan for signs of alien life out there in the signals. The Odinus mission is a specific launch mission, so it lets you launch, and then you can look at things that you score points for, working out things at Neptune and Uranus. So it's like all of these things here seem very well put together and very well researched, and thematic. And I think that is really, really cool. And that's probably what I think elevates this game from a standard Euro, again, which I love Euros, to an even better experience. Now, look, I'm not particularly invested in the search for extraterrestrial life. Okay, I'm not looking for signs and things like that. So the theme to me is it's not like it really speaks to me one way or the other. I just appreciate that it all works together in a fun and intricate way that makes a lot of sense. And so I think that is a huge win. And from that standpoint, I also love how you don't exactly know what type of life you're going to find. And there's 5 different ones that are in the game, and only 2 of the 5 will ever be seen. And they also change the game dynamic pretty, I'd say, fairly substantially because of what they do and how they work and what kind of things they bring to the game. All that is really cool. It's also really easy to execute the AI's turn by just going down the top of the cards, and their actions are very similar to what you're doing, except they don't pay for anything. But that means you don't necessarily have to learn a whole new system of what they're going to do, and how they prioritize things is pretty cut and dry and straightforward. They have a directional arrow. They're either going to prioritize things from the left or the right, or there's some things in the rules that they're just like truisms that you have to know that they shoot for. But it's all very easy to do. So you spend a lot more of your time playing and strategizing the game versus heavy lifting from a bot that could be somewhat complex. I just think they did a really good job with making it work. And so this is a huge win for me. It really is. I mean, it looks really fun, but it actually is really fun. And I like space game themes. There's no doubt about it. I've enjoyed High Frontier for All. I think the game is fantastic, albeit really, really hard to play and to get somewhere in and to learn, etc. This one's not even close. I'm just bringing that up. But I also like games like Space Corp, and a variety of different realistic style space themes have always been fun for me. So this one offers that in a Euro way, Euro themed game, but it also feels very approachable, like you can learn and enjoy this and also get something out of it. You know, that each of the cards at the bottom has some flavor text, which explains the concept of the card, which I think is really cool. Way better than something in the back of like an index or an appendix, which you could read that too, but it's also easier just to look at the card and say, oh, interesting, that's cool, I could see that. Versus like, oh, I'm just gonna like thumb through the back of this appendix. It's all built in here. So I think that from a standpoint of an approachable space game that offers some realism, but does so in a great Euro way, this is a huge win. So definitely high marks for me. I think that, you know, if I try to nitpick on things, there's really not a lot to nitpick here. There really isn't. It doesn't really seem like a fiddly game to me. The movement of the orbit is really easy. It slides nicely. You know, it all just really feels approachable. So if you like the theme, or you like Euro games, or either of those things, and you want like a medium complexity style game that gives you a lot of enjoyment and fun, and it's a slightly sandboxy feel, but very focused because of the objectives you're working for and everything else, this game is for you. So I hope that whoever's looking for this game doesn't have to scan the universe to find it. I hope you can find a copy locally. This just arrived in the United States just before the end of 2024. So I was able to secure my copy just a couple of days ago. I've been having a very good time with this game. I think you will too if you enjoy Euros and you enjoy the theme, either or. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And as I always say, whatever you do in the future, I really hope you have a fantastic time doing it. Take it easy, everybody.